Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Monday, June 13th. I'm Gary Stevens. Second Monday of the month, we devote this time to an update on what's going on in Lansing with one of the people that represent the Lakeshore in the state legislature. Third-term Republican State House Representative Mary Whiteford joins us from the South Haven area. Mary, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can certainly hear you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep. And what a beautiful morning.
A little warm.
Yep.
And, you know, and I know there are some concerns about, keeping people cool and let's put it this way, this would be more of a August 13th forecast than a June 13th forecast.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you have a question about what's going on in Lansing, Mary would be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Before I touch upon some of the things that Mary's been doing, I do need to ask her thoughts about the governor's, I hate to say it, expected veto, but it was an expected veto of the $2.5 billion tax relief plan that the legislature put on her desk. She cited constitutional issues, and I'm scratching my head, and maybe, more learned brains than I do be able to figure this one out. Shouldn't the constitutionality of a law be determined by the judicial branch, not the executive branch?
That's a really good point. So I don't know what's going on. It's an election year, politics are at play, but all I know is everybody should have the ability to keep as much of their hard-earned money as possible. And every year our budget goes up. Prior to COVID, it was up almost $500 million every year. We also have money coming in from marijuana, from online gambling, but a big thing that has increased our funds coming in is something we called it a Wayfair bill, but the state is able to tax out-of-state purchases, which wasn't tracked before. So all these things together, and an improving economy and just a economy of scales, right? With inflation, that dollar amount is going to keep going up. But when we take these things into consideration, I truly believe that we have the ability to decrease our income tax rate. The arguments that were countered on the House floor with floor speeches was that it only helps millionaires and it doesn't help people in poverty. So that's why the earned income tax line is in there, so that people who aren't making funds are getting some additional funds. So I know with the House proposal and the Senate, working together, we were trying to do all the above, but it's politics. So I do believe that we're going to come up with some kind of consensus to be able to offer people relief, and I'm just going to keep fighting for that.
Now, what the governor and what Democrats are proposing is the $500 rebate check. To me, and again, counter that if you wish. To me, that's like candy. It's good for a while, but it doesn't last.
Yeah, and I also believe, call it for what it is. It's not a rebate of taxes paid; it's a check being issued. Even the earned income tax credit, it's actually not. So, okay, here's my example. My aunt, my husband was preparing her taxes, and she said, "So what's my income tax return?" And we said, "Well, you didn't pay any taxes. You don't get an income tax return when you don't pay taxes to begin with, because their income was so low." I've got people from all spectrums in my family, but let's call it for what it is. The DHHS budget is a way to be our safety net, and if we want to do some type of funds going out to people, call it for what it is, so every family gets $500 or whatever. But you're right, a one-time thing. And what we found with all the influx of all the federal money, it actually increased the amount of money out there, which increased inflation. So there's no easy answer. But the best thing that I can say is that we need to invest in behavioral health for our families, make sure Holland has the ability to help people there. We've got a mental health walk-in clinic that I set aside some funds. We've got Mosaic counseling that offers free or reduced behavioral health supports, and they're in all our schools. That has so much bang for our buck to help our families to be more successful. The stress and strain that families go through. I had my grandkids overnight the other day. I was exhausted, and that was just 24 hours, right? But this is what families deal with. How do we get some kind of relief? and make sure that they're being as able to be as successful as possible.
If you
No
have a
magic fairy dust.
If you got a question for State House Representative Mary Whiteford, she'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Of course, being in appropriations, the budget is a big concern right now. We're in all confidence from lawmakers. We'll get something on the governor's desk by the end of the month, which is by now law. You know, that's what you get. Lawmakers have to do. But yet it's a case of, yeah, I can get the budget to her desk, but whether or not she'd sign it without 147 line item vetoes is another thing remains to be seen.
Right, right. So I've been in budget negotiations on mine. So I'm vice chair of appropriations, and then I chair almost half the state budget. So we're just hammering through everything. There's about 25 people in my meetings in Lansing, or I've been Zooming in so that I can be around to help my mom. We're working through it. I really have full confidence that we're going to be able to have something by July 1st. Anything could happen though, but this is the time. And of all years, being that it is an election year, everybody agrees that we need to finish this and move forward. It's going to take a lot of work, and I'm going to do my part just so that my constituents and the people of Michigan know that I'm doing my due diligence and being ready at a moment's notice. And that's the best I can do. But I think we're going to be able to do at least most of the budget work through this before the end of the month.
Now, Mary, one of the things that you've been passionate about is dealing with health and dealing with mental health and dealing with children and many of the things in that regard. Late last month, the Child Welfare Improvement Plan was passed by the House. It gets taken up by the Senate this week.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's being taken up tomorrow. In health policy tomorrow, Wednesday. I have to look at my calendar again. It changes by the moment. But yeah, we're presenting our 13 bill package. I've been working really closely with the department, working out any things that the governor is opposing. But I think we're really, really getting there. And everybody agrees that these bills are an opportunity to make significant improvements in our child welfare system. Even foster parents, the fact that they have to get relicensed every 2 years. Well, if they're in good standing, give them an extra year. Some of those common sense things that really takes a lot of burden off of our families. In our current budget right now, we're recommending, and we all agree, the Senate, the House, and the governor's office, the department agree that foster families should get some additional funds. So we're proposing an 18% increase in that, just to help them have the money to be able to do this important work. So all of these things all together, I'm hoping, like I always go back to the fairy dust. I wish there was fairy dust that would make it better, but there is a process to doing this, and I'm doing my best to set up the foundation of things moving forward, because if we don't have that start, we're never going to make some significant changes. So this is just one more thing that should help our families and children.
616-395-1450. Let's get to the phones. Good morning. You're on the line with Representative Mary Whiteford.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I just had two questions. I saw in the Holland Sentinel about a couple of recent bills. One about serving alcohol at swimming pools, and the other about serving alcohol from pay machines. I'm disappointed in those and wondering what is the purpose and benefit for the community.
Thank you.
I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank
So
you
I'm
very
not sure
much for the
about
call.
I'm trying to remember the vending machine. That one hasn't made it out of the house yet, I don't think. But the one for it's actually swim up bars, and it's areas like in hotels and resorts that they serve alcohol on the side of a pool to be able to have swim up bars. So that's all that is. It's not expanding to like our local community pools in Holland and everything. It's just specifically for those type of bars that are located next to a swimming pool, like resorts down in Jamaica or wherever. So it's not increasing access to our children, which is the biggest thing.
But, having a vending machine with beer in it, I don't know about that either.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what the point is of that, but I think it's going along the lines, it's self-serve places, which I've never seen one personally, but there is so much regulation over alcohol and the serving of alcohol and the training that people have to be able to do that. And that's the only thing I can think on that. But don't recall. I don't think I took that. We had that vote last week. It's something that's being considered by the legislature, though.
All right, 616-395-1450. If you have a question for State House Representative Mary Whiteford, she'll be happy to take it at 616-395-1450. Got some bills up in the Oversight Committee this week. Is it a case of clearing out some of the dead weight in our laws that, it seems like maybe every 2 years, every 4 years, we try to clean up some of the outdated bills. Some get cleaned up, others, well, they just didn't make it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give an example. At the beginning of COVID, people were saying, hey, Governor, you can't use this emergency order the way that you are. And she said, well, some legislature from back in the 40s and up until this time never fixed it and brought clarification. So blame it on the legislature. And so a group of people got together and said, you know what? Let's just go through and make sure that this doesn't happen again. What are outdated laws? What are laws that have never been used among all the different departments? And so that is what the exercise was. And they came up with recommendations. And so those are all in bill form. They're up before the Oversight Committee. I do have 2 of those bills. I have to look back on, I've got a lot on my plate right now with the budget. I have to look back on those bills specifically. But that was the effort. What's not being used? And if somebody comes out and says, hey, we need this, we use it, well, then let's have that conversation. But I don't want to be part of a legislature that was blamed for not addressing an outdated law and have that come across to somebody in 30, 40, 50 years. So that was the whole point of that.
Let's get to a couple of more calls if we can before the break. Good morning. You're on the line with State House Representative Mary Whiteford.
Yeah, well, since I heard about $500, everybody going to get $500 from the government?
That's the idea. That's what the governor would like. I don't know whether or not that's going to pass any legislative muster.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the call. 616-395-1450. Let's get to another call. Good morning. You're on the line with State Representative Mary Whiteford.
Yeah, good morning, Mary. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
On your issues of mental health, I know this person that had a problem, and he wound up in Pine Rest and everything, and now they finally got him on a prescription to get a shot over there on James Street in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to get that once a month, and he's been good for 2 years now. And now he went over there to get a shot here about a month ago, and they told him that it would cost him $650 if he continued to get the shot there. Well, what does a person do when they don't have that money?
Well, thank you. Why don't you call my office and we'll see if we can navigate that on whatever his insurance was. Sometimes I can work directly with a drug company where that will help give some financial assistance to people. So I've got, actually, Gary always gives my number out at the end. Call my office and let's see if we can navigate that.
All right, listener, hang on. I'm going to give you the number right now. 517, 517 is the area code. 373 0836.
Okay, I got it, Gary.
All right, hopefully that'll help you out. And again, a lot of these things, and I appreciate the call, a lot of the things that, let's put it this way, we can only have a few minutes to talk about it on the air. A lot better to do so when you don't relax and take as much time as need to be able to solve the problem. And her staff, Mary's staff, would be more than happy to help you out. Mary, you've been involved with some panels on a national and statewide basis, talking about mental health and healthcare in general. You have another one coming up at the end of the week. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so it was really an honor. There's a group of legislators all over the country who are women. It's just set up specifically for that. I don't care if it's men or women. I think we're all pretty darn equal. But this particular one is the National Foundation for Women Legislators, and they're having a healthcare summit. And I was invited, the only person from Michigan, and I think from the Midwest, invited to be part of these conversations. So I'm really looking forward to what other states are implementing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If we work together, we can share best practices. And I really want to share my crisis and access line, because it is the most expansive crisis line in the country as it's getting unrolled across the state, and let other states know about this important opportunity that they have as well.
Yeah, it is a helpful thing in the sense, but I'm getting the sense that, yeah, Michigan's doing well. Other states might pick up the ball because we're getting this national line moving along those lines. I know it takes a lot longer for the glacier that is national policy to get moving, but once it gets moving, it's kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, and 988 is being required to be adopted by every state. It was a July date, and I know a lot of states aren't capable of making those implementations, but we are, because we've got our crisis and access line up and running. All we have to do is plug in that 988, and we've got that access to everybody to find somebody in their community to help them.
I need to ask you a political question because of the fact that you are a third-term Republican, which means you are term limited out of the House. But it looks as if you may have tapped somebody on the shoulder to replace you in representing much of Allegan County.
Yeah, so actually my district was split up into 6 House seats. So I could ask which one, which seat. So we've got the Holland area. I've known Nancy DeBoer for over 10 years. I've never seen anybody work harder, and all the work that she did on the Civic Center. So I think she'd be a really good voice for the Holland area, which includes Laketown Township, Fillmore Township. And so I have endorsed Nancy DeBoer for state representative, former mayor. And then there's also a wide swath of our agriculture area going right through the middle of the county, all the way to Eaton County, believe it or not. And so this is somebody I met 10 years ago, and I saw her in Martin Township and thought that she would be a really good fit for the district. And so that is Rachel Smith. Sorry, like playing at things, but Rachel Smith. So she's a foster mom. She's adopted her foster kids, a dairy mom, a dairy farmer, and then also a township clerk. So very diverse, but I think I'm really working hard to find people who are going to be able to carry my foster care initiatives forward. And you need somebody who has a heart for that. I tell you, if somebody doesn't have a heart for something that they're talking about, they're not believed. So that's why I've always totally gone in with full emotion. And, this is why I'm doing things. And I found that I've been so much more effective as a legislator by bringing my real world experiences into it and my why and why I'm doing it. And I need people who have their why. And that's how we make differences for over 10 million people in our state and our local areas.
One more thing, and I do want to bring this up. Again, I'm looking through the GOPhouse.org website, which ties in what you have. And since the last time we chatted, healthy Michigan enrollment. Governor says it's doing well. You say, hey, wait a minute, the numbers might be a little bit different than what the governor is crowing about right now.
Yeah, healthcare is so complicated, but the bottom line is that when the whole pandemic started, the president and the executives at the federal level didn't want to take a chance that somebody would lose their healthcare benefits. So they said, okay, states, we will give you a higher rate of reimbursement. So like we put in some money and the feds put in money. So they said, we'll put in more, but you can't remove anybody from Medicaid. So we have 650,000 more people on Medicaid than pre-pandemic. And I would have to say at least half really don't qualify. So I don't want to say I'm taking away people's insurance coverage, because in the normal world, you qualify for benefits because you're in hardship. And when you don't qualify, then you don't get it. That's how we make sure that our taxpayer money is being spent properly and we truly have a safety net. So there's a lot of people who do not qualify and need to be scaled off to where their jobs are, where they get employer assistance. They go onto the exchange to get support that way. However that works, but this is the real world, folks, and a safety net is a safety net, and if somebody doesn't qualify, they don't qualify. So let's make sure we right size the system and figure it out.
Again, I'm going to repeat the contact information for State House Representative Mary Whiteford. If you have a question for Mary, her office phone number is 517-373-0836. Again, 517-373-0836. And the webpage to be able to get more information about what Mary is doing. Go to the GOP House webpage, which is gophouse.org, gophouse.org. Find your representative. Scroll down on the roll down, and you go right to Mary Whiteford and her page, things she's doing, and how you can help, how you can get in touch with her is on that page. As always, Mary, thank you very much for the time. Thank you very much for the observations. Wish you and the family well over the next month. And if all goes well, we'll do this again in the month of July. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. God bless everybody, and go hug your loved ones. They all need it. And stay cool.
All right. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mary Whiteford. 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.